Good morning, everyone. This is Anari B, and I'm back again with another episode from The Relationship Within. And we have been talking about self development. This is the second series in the self development sector. Um, and I really wanted to share today and continue on with that topic something that was really a huge revelation for me within my journey of self development and has continued to be a continual thing because this thing with self development we have to look at is something that we have to continue to do. We have to be mindful of it on a regular daily basis. So these are not these things we're talking about, whether it be understanding how we are labeling ourselves or identifying ourselves, to what we're talking about, what we're going to talk about today. Um, these are things we have to continue to be mindful of in our journey. And as long as we're on this earth, we are going to be serving ourselves in this way, meaning we're going to be constantly evolving into our higher selves. Um, and this is why we're here, to become our higher selves. So, with that being said, I'm going to dive right in. One of the biggest things that I have had to adjust along the way in my journey of self development is realizing that I wasn't prioritizing myself. Not only was I not prioritizing myself as a priority in my life, but I had lost myself. Now, one of the biggest things that's going on in life in a whole, and a concept that I think people kind of misunderstand, and maybe I have a different spin on it, but grief. Grief, a lot of times is looked at from others as just pertaining to death, someone passing away. But grief is something we go through periodically throughout our life, over and over and over again. And the biggest form of grief or loss is losing yourself. And just think about this concept for a minute, because when you've lost yourself, you've lost everything. You've lost everything. And oftentimes when we lose others, it's directly affects us in a certain way because of how we've lost ourselves. We've attached ourselves a lot of times to this person, for whatever reason pertaining to how it makes us feel. I love this person. This is my grandmother, my mom, my sister, my brother. But that love that we have for that person is because of in a lot of ways of how that person made us feel when they were here on this earth with us. And so when we lose that person, we are grieving the loss of them, but we're also grieving the loss of ourselves, because now what does that create for self? Now self has to change in that. We no longer can have that thing that we had. So now we have to go in and change. And change creates a lot of friction in us, because as humans, we don't like change. We combat that, and so grief, and there's so many layers to that, but we're not really talking about grief so much right now. Maybe I'll make a segment all about that at some point. But grieving ourselves, the loss of self, is one of the biggest barriers when it comes to self development. When we lose ourselves in life in a whole, whether it be you lost yourself because you became this great mom and you just focused so much attention on your children that you totally lost yourself, or you became this great wife or husband and you totally lost yourself in that. Or some people do it with their careers, just in their friends and their social life. We can truly lose ourselves. Okay. But I think the biggest loss like I'm saying, is when you've lost yourself in a hole. When you have not only lost yourself and in your household with your children, your husband, your wife, whatever, your immediate family, but also when you've lost yourself in your self uh, identity in the way that you have become everything that the world says you should be, but you're not necessarily what you're supposed to be. So you become everything that the world has told you you should be, whether it be your upbringing making you think this way, or what you see on TV, whatever it is. But you're not being that of which your higher self needs you to be, what God has created you to be. And it's a huge difference in that. And so I had to realize that, at some point in my life, I looked up and I realized I had really, truly lost self. And I was so far from finding self and being on my journey to self, because I had lost myself. I was trying to be the best mom, the best wife, good at everything that I put forth, whether it was a career or anything. I wanted to be the best I could be at that. And so I found myself indulging, just throwing myself into all these things and not realizing that I wasn't happy. I wasn't happy. And a lot of times we may not even realize we're not happy until that very moment where we realize we have lost ourselves. Where we look up and we realize that, dang, I haven't, went and got my hair done in I don't know how long, or I haven't bought myself a new outfit and I don't know when, I haven't went out with a girlfriend and I don't know how long, because I've been so caught up with everything that everyone else in the world wants and needs from me that I've lost myself. And so this thing that I had to realize is that I needed to prioritize myself. I realized by me losing myself in the situations, I was not being a good mother, a good wife, a good worker, a good, whatever I was trying to accomplish in life, because I wasn't truly giving them who I really am. I was giving them what I thought they needed, what they expected of me. This is not your true self. These are the things that, like we talked about on the other episode, these are things that we identify with. This is not you being your true self. This is what you have associated with certain things, like being a mother or being a wife or being a minister or being, whatever you have told yourself you are. And so I had to realize that, man, in a sense, I'm living this false life. I haven't even began to start living. And in that moment, it kind of really threw me back, like, wow, like, I started thinking about all these things in my mind, and I'm like, wow, like, I'm not living my life. And what another thing I realized in that is that not only am I not living my life, but I have allowed all of these things outside of me, my children, my husband, my job, my, desires in life, what the world is telling me I should and shouldn't be. I've allowed these things to create life for me instead of me creating my own life. And so it was a really big hit for me. One of the biggest, I would say, in my journey of self-development, realizing this. And as I came to that understanding, I tell you, it changed every relationship I had, whether it be with my sisters, my mom, my children, my husband, my work. It changed every relationship I had in this life, because I then realized how I needed to approach things in life. I needed to put me truly first and prioritize me first in order so that I could really be the best mom, the best wife, the best worker, and all these other things. You know what I'm saying? I could then show them who I really am and offer them the jewels that God had given me. See, when you're living in that space where you're not prioritizing self, not only have you lost yourself, but you've lost the journey that you're supposed to be on, your true path that God has laid out for you. You've lost that journey. You're not on that journey. So if you're not on your journey, then where are you? you know? And we have to ask ourselves that, then you look at your life and you see all this stuff that's been going wrong in your life and you say to yourself, well, that's why. Because I'm not on my path. I'm not doing what I'm supposed to be doing here. And I know I hear a lot of people talk about purpose, but I'm going to tell you right now what purpose truly is. Purpose is to be of your higher self. That is our sole purpose on this earth, is to live to be our higher selves. And as you develop into that person that you're supposed to truly be, anything you do can become prosperous. So it's not when someone says, what is my purpose? It's not about a specific job you have or a specific way of doing it. It is about you. You are the purpose. And once you become that, anything you touch will be gold. You understand what I'm saying? So it's very important that we on our journey to self-development, that we tap in to this lesson of prioritizing ourselves, truly putting ourselves first. And, until you do that, you will continue to go through the grieving process of losing yourself. And the more you lose yourself in your life and you continue to stay on this path that is not for you, meant for you, the harder it gets, the worse it becomes, the more things you go through. And I hear people all the time saying, well, I'm going to do this. And you see them going through so much stress and so much strain in their lives. And they're constantly like, I don't have enough money for this. And I don't have this going on. And, that's life. All kind of stuff coming. It's always going to be something coming up. Not necessarily. These are sufferings and struggles we put upon ourselves. Why? Because number one, we're not on our true path. We're not following the path that God is telling us to follow within us. But you can only tap into that when you tap into self. That's the whole thing. So all these people, when they look at, we hear all the time, love yourself first. And be like, oh yeah, I love myself. I love myself, girl. I take myself out. I pamper myself. That is not loving self. That's being on the surface. That's playing dress up. And so when we love ourselves, like I'm saying, that's when you're paying attention to the things that are very most needed in your life. So in other words, like I'm saying, this right here, what I'm doing, speaking to you all, this is a passion. This is something that I love doing. And I want to share my life with the world in hopes to help someone else along their journey. This is something that I have to do. This is something that is of my true self. But if I don't dedicate time to this, then I can't be in this space with myself. And the people who listen to these podcasts, they get to know me, the real me. The people who just, may call or every once in a while, oh, how you doing? We just called to check on you. They may talk to me, but I'm going to tell you now, you're probably not getting to know very much of who I am. The people, when you go out and you just meet them in passing, they don't really know you. But I'm sharing a piece of me when I share these podcasts, because I'm sharing a piece of my mind. I'm sharing a piece of my heart. I'm sharing something that is very important on my journey. And it's like, so I asked, like, what's important to you on your journey? What is it that God is calling you to get on and to pay attention to, that you're not paying attention to because, oh, the phone just rang and now I'm on the phone with somebody and I'm on that phone call for maybe an hour, and by the time I get off that call, I done forgot everything I was supposed to be doing because I didn't prioritize it. So some of the things that I started to do in order to prioritize me first, one of the number one things is I practice being in the now. And what I mean by that is I try to do things. You may have a list of things, and when women have this a little harder than men, we like to multitask. But a lot of time multitasking, you're running around, you're doing all this stuff, and you're not getting nothing done. You know what I'm saying? Because you have too much on your mind. And it's okay to have a list of things that you're trying to do, but there's a new way of multitasking. Okay, so if you have several things you're trying to do, you focus on one thing at a time. I'm going to fully complete this thing, and then I'm going to fully complete that thing. It's not, okay, I'm going to wash the dishes. I'm going to start washing the dishes. And then next thing you know, I'm in the room making up a bed. And then next thing you know, I'm vacuuming and I haven't completed anything. I might go back to those things, and by the end of the day, I've completed it all. But you're running in circles. You're driving yourself crazy. And I'm just using a house analogy. It could be anything, you know. You start stuff and you don't finish. And that's what I realized I was doing. So I had to start being more in the now. So I focus solely on what I'm doing right now. As for instance, I'm doing this podcast, and nothing is going to interrupt that because right now, this is my focus. So a phone call, oh, I need this, mom, honey, can you do that? That kind of stuff has to wait. And do this with everything in your life, whether it's you taking a walk and you're just out and about and you're taking a walk. Focus on nothing but your surroundings and the trees and the air and how it's hitting you and how you feel in that moment. Be in the now in that moment. Don't go out and walk and think about your bills and what you got to do and tomorrow and, you know, how you told so-and-so you come over next week. Don't focus on any of that when your time is supposed to be focusing on that walk. You get what I'm saying? If you're dedicating time to your children, let that be all for them in that moment. I'm not allowing anything to interfere with this. Same with your mate. Same with, you know, anything you're doing. If you're sitting and reading a book, enjoy that book. You know, quiet your mind to all the other things. And this is also what I realized. Another way and a form of me being able to meditate all day long, because I'm able to focus on the now in each scenario. So it quiets the mind to all the other things around that, whatever I'm doing, and just helps me to just focus. And so that was one of the things that I practiced. And like I said, practice because when it comes to this self-development, this is something you have to be on. You have to be on it every day. And when you put it down and you drop it and you say, okay, I've done enough. Now, you know, I can go back to doing this and that. Nope. Now you done went back to being off your journey, off your path. You have to stay on the path once you get on it. And you have to complete that task because that is what you are supposed to be doing here. And so focusing on the now, and also listening to, I started to listen to my soul self tell me what it is that I needed. You know, those things that just kind of whisper in your ear and be like, man, I just really want to go hot air ballooning. And you just keep that thought, just keep passing through. And you say, well, one day, I'll do it one day after this and after that. No, What I started doing is that if I have the means to do what it is that's coming to my mind, I'll do it. I don't wait, because you don't know how long you have to complete these things. You don't know how long you're going to be here. And it doesn't matter how old you are, how much life you've lived, you have to start to self-development. You have to start to self-develop. You have to start to prioritize yourself. And I talk to my mom about these things all the time, and talking to her, and I tell her, Mom, you got to put you first. And it's funny because when you're talking to an older person and they have lived so much life, and then you've seen them sacrificing and just go through so much sacrifice for yourself, your siblings, and it's like you appreciate them so much. And all I want her to do now in her life is to truly enjoy herself, to not focus on trying to be there in a way that, oh, I got to be there. My children, we know you're there at this point. And if your child doesn't know you're there at this point, once your parent is older, then, that's a whole nother, that's a whole nother recording here. That's a whole nother video. But I just want to see my elders, my aunts, my mother, I want to see them enjoy themselves and just truly absorb self, because this is the last leg of the race for some of them. This is like, their final years on this earth. And so you have to start to enjoy life at some point, It's not all about, I have to be on top of things, because if I'm not, everything's going to fall apart. Now that you have to give to God. You got to have faith that everything is going to be upheld and continue to flow without you, but I really, really wanted to get on here and talk about, like I said, the loss of self, losing ourselves first, grieving that. The grieving process we go through in losing ourselves is a lot of the things that we're experiencing and feeling. We are grieving, and that's why we're going through things like depression, anger sometimes, frustration, things like, not getting up and not really feeling motivated in life. That feeling of like you're just running in circles. These are the side effects of us grieving the loss of self. And I had to realize that in prioritizing myself, that I was not doing my children an injustice by doing that, by putting myself first. I was actually doing them a service. I was being a better mom to them, because now I can show you and give you my true and best self, versus giving you the tired and worn down and you know what I'm saying, not being able to function sometimes because you done depleted yourself so much and spread yourself so thin, trying to do and be there for everything and every situation. And in your mind, that made you a good mother. Well, it's not really making you a good mother when you do that, because you don't have the energy and the time and the space to really truly be the mother that you need to be for them, because you're not being yourself. When you start operating from a level of putting yourself first and truly being you, that's when things start to fall into perspective. That's when you look up and you start to realize whatever your true calling is on this earth. And what I mean by calling, because like I said, we are our own purpose. But what I mean by calling is, you might say, well, shoot, I want to be an actress. I want to be a singer. I want to go out here and I want to be a great writer. Whatever your thing may be. I want to be a doctor, veterinarian, whatever. And you want to be great at these things. you start to realize that all this time I've been doing all this other stuff because I felt like that's what I needed to do in order to, create a life for myself and my children or my household or whatever the case may be. But it's not making me happy. It's not serving me. You got to ask yourself why. Because you're not serving yourself. You're not serving your true self. So if you're on a job and you're feeling like every day you don't want to be there, and you're feeling like you can't get up in the morning because it's like, oh my gosh, like I got to do this again. You know what I'm saying? If you're on a job and you're feeling like you're stressed because, it's becoming a burden, it's more like a job, then more than likely it's not serving you, not your true self. But oftentimes we're afraid to step into that space and let everything go that we've created and built for ourselves, because then we say, well, God, what was the whole point of me doing all this, going to school or doing all these other things with my life, and just to realize that that's not what I want to do, or that's not the path I need to be taking. You got to trust and you got to have faith that everything's going to be okay. Everything is going to be okay. But that's all about putting ourselves first. And so that's what I wanted to touch on today. I hope I have helped someone today to, truly understand what's going on within them. If you have any questions about anything I've said, please leave a comment below. I love reading comments. I love, when people ask questions. It's just a beautiful thing. But once again, I'm Coach Anari B. And this is another episode of the Relationship Within, another sector of our self-development sector. And I will continue these. I want to go live. I haven't decided which day yet, but I will keep you guys posted on the date that I'm going to go live, and we can just really have a live discussion on self-development and just really talk about a lot of things. And so until next time, talk to you next time. Love everyone. Have a good day.